you never know. When you keep going at it every day and you work on this, great things happen. There's just no way that I'd be able to live my life path with the ambition that I had and have with my current energy levels and where I was at physically. Machines, dumbbells, I felt completely out of place. And then you have people there, some of them welcoming, some of them not. And that's what made me really understand the power of somebody giving you a sense of belonging.
A little interruption before we get into today's episode. So I run these shows ad-free. We will never take on sponsors because everything is self-funded through our Fit Vegan coaching program. So if you enjoy this show, the best way to support is obviously to subscribe to the channel. But also, if you know anyone over the age of 50 that is looking to improve their body composition, combat sarcopenia, combat osteoporosis, and simply want to get healthier on a whole food plant-based lifestyle, simply send them our way over at fitvegancoaching.com. We're the best in the world in helping people over 50 transform with over 1,100 transformations from 20 different countries. In addition to that, a percentage of our profit monthly goes towards supporting cancer patients with their treatments, bills, and whatever they may need to support themselves and their family. So you're also supporting additional people outside of the work that we do in the program. That's all I have for you today. Enjoy the episode. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Maxime Sigouin Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest to introduce to you guys. One of our newest addition to our coaching family. We have Alexander Hayes. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited we get to record because you've been working for the company for a few years now, and now it's behind the scenes. Now it's time to step into the light and serve people at the highest level.
It's been a joy throughout the entire process, and it is nice to have a more of a backseat approach and see some of the processes throughout. But now that I'm able to actually step in the front and directly work with people at a greater degree, it's definitely brought on a new level of excitement.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you to be able to step into the mission firsthand and be able to serve our members. The reason why I want to do this podcast is obviously to introduce you to our community, whether it's on YouTube or audio or the newsletter where people are going to be listening to it. But a big thing, the how I choose who to bring on as a coach is who has a heart to serve. Because a lot of people that have great knowledge, but they don't have that deeper sense of wanting to serve, of wanting to help other people. And that's really important to me. And obviously with the big mission that we're on of trying to help 10,000 people by 2033 and 1 million by 2050, we need good people to do that.
That's
so
right.
I love to dive into your story. What got you into, I was going to say health and fitness, but I feel that self-improvement probably came first for you.
It did. Yeah, it's actually a great tracing. It did. Fitness and health, it came a little bit later as a natural tendency. When you start getting into the world of development, improvement, that category, which I'm excited to touch on, fitness does come up. But at first, I was originally self-taught and homeschooled. And so growing up, I was typically always pretty overweight. I was a pretty heavy kid. And it started to occur to me in my teenage years, especially when I wanted to do things active and get out there and, have fun. And I've been a lifelong martial artist. And so I wanted to get greater skill at that. And so inevitably life did lead me to health and wellness. And my journey really started back originally, I would say 12. I was 12. And at the time, I was relatively overweight. I'm 5'3", so at that height, I was around, I would say, 180 pounds. And it wasn't the heaviest, but I still felt dense. And so I knew I needed to make a change and a shift. And then an unfortunate event occurred with my mother where it essentially spiraled into a long list of challenges that she would have to overcome. And at that point, I knew, A, I need to make a shift in my life for my future. B, I love my mother. I want to make sure that she's okay. How can I help? How can I serve? And then from that point, it was a great passion and enthusiasm ever since to be able to help people that I care about. And it's everybody these days.
Yeah. You and I have a common story of Tony Robbins. We have a common story. We have a common starting point of getting into the work of Tony Robbins. And I know you have a really cool story about that. Do you mind sharing, kind of how you got exposed to Tony and kind of what came about?
It brings a big smile to me just hearing the name and the question. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. With Tony, so growing up, being self-taught and homeschooled, I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm not shy, I'm not reserved, but I just don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to communicate my messages effectively. Who do you think would be a great person that I could look to develop this skill? Of course, outside of family, you and etc." He said, "Well, there's a guy named Tony Robbins. I've learned of him since I was your age. He's been doing this for a while, and he has great skills in this area, and I think that that'll be a good direction." So, of course, I followed suit. I looked into his program, and I took a Get the Edge program back then, and I worked an entire month or two, actually, no, a whole summer rather. Worked a whole entire summer just to save up for this program. And when I took the program, I really wanted to implement it. So when I had some form of information, I wanted to apply it the best that I could. And so Tony made a great impact on me. I was able to see some of the things he was doing and his passion, his enthusiasm, and his way he spoke and was articulate. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I want to be able to do something similar. And so over the years, I learned, I took that course, and then pretty much anything that was out there, I tried to get my hands on. Then around 18 years old, years down the line, I was working night shift at a place, and it was long hours. It was enduring, and I had this really cool story that had a customer come in, and it relates. And the customer was talking about like, "Alex, why are you so positive all the time?" And I mentioned to her, I said, "It's not necessarily that I'm positive. It's that I'm really practicing placing my focus on being very thankful for health and looking at life through the framework of it's not what's happening to me, it's what's happening for me, right? Life happened for me, not to me." And that kind of goes back to Tony. And I told her, I said, because you never know when you keep going at it every day and you work on this, magical things happen, great things happen. And the next day, I woke up interrupted, and it was his birthday on Instagram. So I was scrolling as you do at 18. And I saw it. So I posted a message and shared my story just a little bit as a thank you to say, "Hey, Tony, when I was just even a younger teenager, I bought your program and I took it, and it affected me in a very positive way, and it's influenced me to this day. So for your birthday, I just want to say thanks, Coach, and I love you." And his team saw that, and they loved it. And it eventually got back to him to where a few hours later, I would receive a message from the Tony Robbins account, which at first when you see it, you think it's got to be a fake account, but it wasn't. And yeah, it was Tony. He sent me some messages, "Hey, Alex, it's Tony Robbins, and just, I want to say thank you so much, brother, for what you said." And then he was wondering what I was doing a couple weeks later. I responded, of course. And so, yeah, the UPW Unleash the Power Within event down in Los Angeles. And so for his birthday, he wanted to contribute to me and gift me a full access to the front row. And, it was me, my son, Jarek, my wife, Sage, and 15,000 people, Pitbull. You'll love it. So then I went, and it was just, it was a really amazing experience. I made great friends while I was there to this day. And so it was amazing to see just that next day when I was talking to this customer that came in about how certain things can just happen that are really awesome and touching. It was kind of cool having somebody that affected me so deeply do such a warm gesture.
Yeah. How did you like UPW?
I loved it. It was fun. When I went into it, I was more excited. I was like, I was more excited and curious on like how he was doing it than actually being a participant. Because I studied him so long, I could finish his sentences. I mean, quite literally. Yeah. So, but there's still more to learn, and I walked into it with an empty cup, and but I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I remember, is it 2 years ago, I did the Platinum Partnership.
Yes.
That's the only way I could sit up front back then. So the fact that you got to go up front without paying whatever 6 figures it was for that membership is phenomenal. And it's nice that you got to do that at such a young age. I only have great memories from doing those events and all those the people you meet, the energy. Obviously, there's a lot of energy in those events for people that have done them. So shifting over to fitness and plant-based eating, when did that come about in a journey? When you mentioned you felt that you're carrying a little bit of excess weight, you were feeling dense, I think is the word you use. So when was it that you're like, you know what, I need to start working out, and I want to eat plant-based? Because you've been plant-based for almost as long as I have, or probably same amount of time or a bit longer.
October 7th of 2012.
Oh yes, you are longer than me. I'm like just over 10 years. So you're like 13 years.
You got your decade in. That's
awesome.
I
got the decade in. I didn't get a badge yet. No.
I haven't got mine either. It's not arrived. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think Robert would be the one to bestow that badge, if anybody. But
at this point, yeah, Robert's the godfather of veganism.
That's right. Shout out Robert Cheek, my good man. But yeah, no, the beginning of my journey around 12 was a time that I knew I needed to make a shift and a change, and I knew my mother needed to as well. And so that kind of got me into wanting to understand about information about recovery, health, feeling vital, and the energy, and going back to Tony, how that ties in. It's all about your state management and having a lot of vitality. So that's what I really wanted to develop more so. And I knew at that state, there's just no way that I'd be able to live my life path with the ambition that I had and have with my current energy levels and where I was at physically. So I also, at the time, just being open about it, I probably had 75 cents if I was lucky. So there was a corner store, and for the fountain drinks, it'd be water, and I was grateful for that. And I actually was appreciative, but I just knew financially at that point, it wasn't feasible for a gym membership, and I didn't have a vehicle, and I was living in an area that was relatively further out of town, and shout out to the trailer park days. And so I would end up walking to this Anytime Fitness locally. And, and so when I stepped foot in my first Anytime Fitness down the road, I figured, hey, I'd get my steps in by walking there for 40 minutes. And I didn't have enough money to pay for membership. But I also, coming from martial arts background with my father as my teacher, I didn't want to request and ask for something without also having mutual interest and giving first. So I went there and I said, hey, I met the people, lovely people, Andrea Simpson, she was the former owner. Great family. I walked in and I said, hey, this is my situation. I need to get healthy. I don't have enough money to pay for membership, but I also don't want the membership for free. So I'm trying to figure out opportunities and way I can be resourceful. Because I didn't have many resources, but I want to be resourceful. And she loved the idea. She said, I love that. And she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, I'll do anything. I'll clean the gym. What do you need? What are things that you need that what I could help with? And she said, we actually have a position open, and you can come in and maintenance. And I was like, and cleaner. She's like, yes, maintenance and janitorial. I said, it's okay. I'll start there. And she's like, yeah, you start with, you ever mopped? I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, let's go ahead and get off from the floor. So that I started that day, ended up landing a job. It was $12 an hour. And so I was used to 75 cents. So I was pretty excited. It was a good pay bump. And so it came with the membership too. It was a couple hours a day for a week, or every day of the week. And I just started. I was in there. I didn't know anything. I walked in nervous. I remember exactly what it was like. It was machines, dumbbells. I felt completely out of place. And then you have people there, some of them welcoming, some of them not. And that's what made me really understand the power of somebody giving you a sense of belonging or welcoming you to an environment that you have uncertainty about. You have some pause, some reserve. And there's a few people that didn't do that. And I remember how that felt. And there's a few people that did. And so the people that did, I just remember how great of an experience that was. I'm like, that's what I want to do for other people that walk into this gym, even though I'm going to be cleaning and doing maintenance and fixing treadmills and, the belts, and that takes forever, by the way. And so I was like, I want to be able to develop this. And so that's where it started. And I started working out and exercising, and I had no idea what I was doing, but it was a start. So that was the very beginning of it.
And I was going to say, you sharing that story is, I can see how that had affected you because of how you serve our members on the concierge calls. Like, I can tell where that comes from.
Yeah, it was when people like Sue. I still remember this day. She's so awesome. She's this wonderful lady, and she was in her 80s, and just the sweetest soul. And she would go in, and every day she would be on the second bike to the left. As soon as you walk into the doors, to give you a visual, there's the bike to the left, the office, or to the right, the office to the left. And she would just say every day, "Good morning, Alex," with his biggest smile, and she would be listening to her opera. She would listen to opera, and we'd get coffee once a week. We'd go over, there's a coffee shop right next door, and I'd just hear stories and hear about like her life, and she was from New York, and when I got a chance to know people at that level, I was never even thinking about like, oh, I feel nervous, or I feel uncomfortable, or I just wanted to learn. I was curious. I had a compassionate inquiry to understand, and I got these experiences to really know people, and it was beautiful, and still is. And so it translates to this day, the Sues, all the wonderful people that I've come across. That's just an example, but I still see her every now and then walk around town. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, members love talking to you on the concierge call. We always get good feedback, and that, they tell us that you can tell that you want to serve and you want to help them. So diving into the other variable of health, there's multiple of them, but the second biggest one is, plant-based eating. When did that come about in a journey?
Oh yeah. Thanks for allowing me to revisit that. So plant-based eating came about on October 7th of 2012. I was just it was an unfortunate event that happened. We had a family dog named Buddy Love, and it was this time. He was half lab, half rot. It was this time, and he was primarily my brother's dog. I'm close with my older brother, and it was his time to move on. It was him. He passed away, and it was a tough time as it is for many people who losing a friend and a pet. And my brother, from that point, he was like, you know what is the difference between him and this adorable cow? Because we were kind of walking down this little path. I should give context. We were walking down a path. And when he really thought about it, he's like, he's cute and he's adorable, just like Buddy, and so he looked at me, he's like, I don't want to eat them, dude. That was his vocabulary. And I'm like, you have a good point. Yeah. What do we do? He's like, let's go vegetarian. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And then when we looked into it, we learned more about kind of the ethics behind it. And then being more plant-based. And so as we were transitioning to more of a plant-based lifestyle, he went, and I wanted to support him. And we were originally from the Midwest. So, as one knows, vegetables is consisting of vegetables and fruits, ketchup, and corn.
Variety right there.
No, I love and respect to the Midwesterners, but I'm just saying, from where I was from, at least the area that I was in, that was the predominant sort of food intake wasn't plants. So when he went, I wanted to support him, and I wanted to learn more about it. And then it just so happened to cause effect of where I'd be losing the weight. Now, of course, it was primarily due to a total lack of calories. I'm used to very calorically dense animal-based foods. And so when I switched to more plant-based foods, then of course there's more nutrient density, but less calories. So I just naturally did lose a lot of the weight. And so that's when I started noticing a shift. And I had some skin issues, eczema, acne, that went away. And I also just felt better, felt lighter. And I finally found something that was working for me without even meaning to. Kind of fell into it.
Yeah. And, thinking about when you transition, we're, by the time the podcast goes live, which is around when we're recording, it's going to be your 13th year as a vegan, because we're like a few days away from that.
Yeah, 13th year, and the plant-based lifestyle has been really wonderful as far as being able to. I don't really even think about it anymore. As far as it's just kind of like anything else, it just becomes a part of your life. And with going back to Tony and identity work, and a lot of psychology in general, identity, those sorts of identity shifts. I think at that point in my life, it was helpful to have a certain form of identity, to have values to live by, compassion. And Colleen Patrick Goudreau said something that I really love. She said, as it regards to being plant-based in this space, and she said that compassion, compassion is the goal. Plant-based lifestyle is the vehicle, right? It's just a way that we can accomplish this goal. So that was kind of the thing that has always been on my mind, is more of a value of compassion and care. And as long as I'm feeling well, it makes sense for me.
Yeah. And for the people listening, Colleen is a joyful vegan on social media. So many people have heard of her before. Because sometimes when I say Colleen's full name, people are like, who is that? I'm like, joyful vegan. They're like, oh yeah, I like her. I like her stuff.
Yeah. I actually met her. I was 18. The first time I met her is when I met Robert Cheek at the Portland Veg Fest. And it was wonderful. And then it was cool having her do an internal live talk for our members. It was really special. Full circle.
Yeah.
Many years.
That was very nice of her. So from everything you shared, it seems that the I think like one of the trigger points was your mom kind of getting, I don't know if she got sick, but kind of like something happening with your mom is kind of what triggered you wanting to improve yourself to therefore have a more positive impact on her.
Well said. Very well said. Yeah, with my family, my parents and my brother, and a few of the close friends that I have at family, those are my roots. If it kind of comes down to it, being able to understand how to care about each other, and seeing their example through that, even as far back as I can remember, was very special to me. And so when I saw someone who, she's just an angel. A lot of folks, of course, love their mom, and she's always going to have an effect on me. And she's very caring. She has a heart of gold. And so it's not that, she was trying to do anything wrong. She got into this, she was trying to purposefully have these things happen. It was just a bad series of events, from car accidents to the next thing, to chiropractic adjustments going wrong, to whiplash, you name it, that just created this myriad of challenge. So seeing her smile through that and still take care of her kids, and trying to just do the best she can as a mother, as a wife, I saw that emulated. No matter what she was going through, or how hard things were for her, she still showed up, and for the average person, you would never even know she's in pain. And when I saw that, I was like, so, and so of course I felt this deep sense of feeling compelled to try to help and try to resolve, and to at least mitigate some of that pain and health issues. So it was never really too much about my own well-being. I've always felt grateful at that point in my life. It was always, how can I make sure that, as a caretaker, how do I take care of them? And so that's translated to this very day, as I realized how good that feels when you see progress and you see somebody that was in their state to get better. It's an enriching experience to see, because a lot of times I know very well that it couldn't have not gone better. And therein lies quality of life and experience that ultimately is kind of the root driver of why I love to do what I do, is being pain-free, injury-free, or at least acute injury-free as much as possible, given your situation, and to, exercise and to do the type of activities and behaviors that improve the quality of your life as a gift to yourself, rather than something that you should be punished.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful reason to want to help your mom. As you know, help my mom through the program through eating this way. You've been able to help your mom and your family through eating this way and living this way. It's a beautiful feeling. And, as much as we don't like when bad things happen, a lot of times they are the cause for us wanting to serve outside, right? It's like, hey, if I can help my mom with this, I can probably help other people with this as well. And it's such a beautiful feeling that comes from transforming someone, serving someone, supporting them on their journey.
Oh no, I was so excited. It immediately sparked a trigger, which was when I originally was introduced to you, and thankfully so, I'm very grateful for that experience. And I heard of you through Robert. I was able to dive into some of the things that you were experiencing in your story with your mission and in our mission. It was profound to me because it hit home, hit so close, and so I just want to also say that was really cool to see how you affected your mom and throughout that journey, and shout out to her.
Yeah. No, because we met at what expo was it?
It
Because
was
you're
the,
working the Vegan Strong booth, but it was like a Anaheim expo of some sort.
yeah, I believe it was the Anaheim Fit Expo.
Fit Expo, that's what it was. Yeah, it was a Fit Expo. I don't know why. Oh, Ivy was down there because she was working a food convention beside. So then I
Yeah,
just wandered into that one, and then that's where I met you. And that was like a few years ago.
it was. It wasn't too long. It was just a couple years back. I was on tour with the Vegan Strong team at the time. Robert also, thanks to him, I was able to tour for a couple of years. Even since 2021, I would go on shows and get out there and a lot of high fives and a lot of hugs. So it was a good time. But I
Yeah.
met you there. That was a great experience. And as soon as I met you, I knew when you meet people, at least for me, there's a certain kind of thumbprint that they can leave on me. There's always a uniqueness about them. And I'm always wanting to find what that is or absorb it and try to understand it, because it's almost like an artist recognizing art. You start looking for the artistry, and you'll find it. And that was something that I took away from that. I was like, there's something about Maxim. I was like, I look forward to speaking with him again. And it was like a calling. I knew something was going to come of that. I didn't know what, but I knew something great would be. So it's kind of cool to see full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah. Well, it's built up all the way to here now. So
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I love how the flow of life works.
yeah. So for those that are listening that are in the program, you probably had a concierge call with Alex at some point when you came into the program, because you've been in that for a while now. But now it's time to step into the position of a coach. So a few months back, you got your personal training certification because you're ready to kind of, step it up and join the coaching team. And so now you're going to be stepping into as an accountability coach. So helping to serve people with staying on track with their transformation. Um, what does that, I say, what does that look like? What does that mean to you to be
Yeah.
able to help people with what I would say potentially the hardest part of transforming?
No, well put. For me, I'll also add a little bit prior to give some context. When I started off originally in the gym and that position, my goal was always to just, how much good can I do today, and how can I strive toward excellence? For the reason that the greater the skill that I develop and the greater that I can create life, I feel like I give myself the opportunity to serve people in a more authentic way. And I feel like I've earned it for me, which gives me the ability to extend it to others. And so it's like, I'm honest with me, so I'm always going to be honest with you. Kind of starts with me. And I read this book, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz, at that time. Great book, by the way. Good insights. Also the author of Four Agreements and another good one.
Okay, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and great Toltec wisdom. Loved it. Great work. But it was about the art of relationship with yourself. And so I took that into the gym environment. And what had happened was I kept moving forward in my role. So I went from the cleaning maintenance role, janitorial, to now a couple of years went by and I went into the member engagement specialist in Anytime Fitness. And I told myself at one point, I want to manage this place. That was my ambition. I want to manage it. I want to do some sort of role, and that was originally the goal. And I'm like, then from there, I'll take it to the next step. So I always progressed. And when I was a member engagement specialist, it was always about creating culture, like having values and then expressing that values internally and creating an environment that people felt welcomed in and had a sense of belonging. So the first thing that I did was, and it's going to get back to your question, is the first thing I did is I had this big board. And so I would have all the people, because I lived in a college town. They're from South Korea, from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, from China, from Japan, everywhere you can think of, the UK, different languages. So I wrote in all the different languages, welcome, and welcome, so that whenever they came in, they at least saw something that would resonate in their language, their native language rather. And so then as soon as they saw that, I expanded that throughout the gym, and people just felt welcomed. So that was the first step: is how can I provide people a sense of warmth and comfortability with being vulnerable and being themselves, and that can only take place, at least from the degree that I want it to and desire, if I can do that with people. And so that was the first thing: is people would come into the gym, I would welcome, and it was a beautiful experience. Then I knew, how could I take it to the next step? I can walk them through exercise. I can walk them through programming. I can walk them through macronutrients, etc. So that's what led me to be a trainer. So I started off from the janitorial member engagement specialist for a year, and then I got my certification. And also a lot of just in-person experience with people of all walks. So then when that happened, and also being a martial arts teacher at the same time, I was like, this is something that really resonates with me. So that's where the training began for a number of years, until eventually I even led to being a fitness manager, regional, went in corporate. And it's nice being back down to earth. So the meaning for me of accountability is, firstly, I want people, every person that I connect with, I want them to feel a sense of warmth, comfortability, and belonging, and to know that this is a complete safe space for them to share authentically with me what it is that they're looking to accomplish. And what are their standards? I have my standards, and I do my best to meet and exceed those. And that's something I work on in this very moment and every day. What are theirs? All right, I can take myself out of it. What are their standards? What are their goals? What are they looking to accomplish? And then how can I be the best guide and person in their corner to help remind them of those standards and the reasons why they have them, and so that I could help them build this muscle, this emotional and disciplined muscle, because it's exactly the way I view it, so that eventually they continually do that and they have the strength to be more independent and move on, which is why I love your philosophy on sustainability. Small wins compound. Those phrases go a very far way, because that's how it starts. So to me, holding people accountable is simply reminding them of what's important, why, and then how can I give them the tools and frameworks to make it as simple as it can be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think throughout that, you'll help them reinforce this new identity that they're trying to build. You brought up earlier, right, that you were able to reinforce your own identity into the person that you wanted to become.
Yes.
What are things that have helped you reinforce this identity that you kind of did just like me? You self-created it in your head before it was an actual reality, and then you did things to reinforce it until it became true. So what are some of the things that have helped you do that people will be able to take away and implement to rebuild this new identity for themselves of someone that's fit and healthy and lives this way?
It feels good to be seen. Yeah, no, thank you. That's the things that helped me the most was a fundamental key. We understand things from a perspective of language at its root, and we use words and tonality and inflections and all sorts of ways that we can articulate what we're communicating. And we do that all the time. We practice it all the time with other people and within social relations, you name it. And for me, I had a lot of time in solitude. And so I never went to public school. And I had my brother, of course, and I had some friends, but I had a lot of time with me. And when that occurred, I didn't really have concepts like uh, I didn't have concepts. I didn't have too many attachments to identity and who it is that I was. I just was curious. I was very curious. Still am very curious. And so when building an identity was really, I'm like, who can I build myself to be as far as how do I interact with my world? What's my self view? What's the world view? And how do I go about aligning that authentically, and or at least within a lot of transparency, worldview, self view, etc. So what helped me was to understand, rather than look at things through the framework of analyzing and judging negatively or thinking badly or this is bad, this is good. It was more about how can I have more compassionate inquiry to understand my own self, my own processes, and how would I treat my friend? I would treat them. I'd be there for them. I'd listen to them. I'd love them. I'd want to make sure that I could do everything I could for them. So why should the dialogue and communication that I have with myself be any different than how I would treat somebody I care about? So I knew, okay, well, I care about me. Who's me? That's a pretty deep question that I think a lot of people get to, philosophically speaking. That's the whole podcast. But what helped me was that question is, who am I? What do I really desire? And why? And so those kind of fundamental questions originally is what helped. And then to have some compassion behind my inquiry of being curious. Why do I do this? What is this behavior? What does it mean? What could it mean? Could it mean multiple things? It's having some time to take to yourself and really just think deeply about your behaviors, how you interact with your world. And so that gives you a really nice perspective. And when you're not so involved in thinking what is good, what's bad or terrible, I'm a good person, when you just see it for what it is as in behavior, you can see, well, what are my results from this? And do I love those results? And, for me, I've always just wanted, okay, great. I like these results. I want to love these results. So it was always from a perspective of growth mindset and care, as my original root origins was I need to develop and be the person that others can count on, like my close family and friends, and also eventually for my own self to take a humble pride in, to know that I'm like, I can deal with the perceived environmental demands and do that well. So ultimately, to answer the question, to not take things too personally when it comes to other people. Speaking of 4 agreements, that was a huge one. I stopped taking things to heart personally about what other people do, say, and etc. And I just started looking at things through the lens of compassion and understanding. I want to understand rather than anything else. I don't want to necessarily judge to condemn. I want to judge to evaluate, and then I want to understand.
So it seems like leading with genuine curiosity gave you an opportunity to see your actions or your thoughts from a different perspective, from multiple different perspectives, and then from there to choose which one you wanted to keep and which one you didn't want to keep. And seems that that's how you kind of built yourself up throughout the years of like, let's have some kindness. Let's look at life from a different perspective. I like this. Let's keep this. I don't like this. Let's eliminate this. Let's make sure we don't do that. Again, there's no perfection, but the least amount possible, basically.
Yeah, incredibly well said. That's exactly what's been the process. And at first, I wanted to create an identity, and then after a while, I was like, "Well, what's an identity?" And then I delve into that, and then I started realizing I'm not what I do. I'm not my material things that I have. I'm not this or I'm not that. And so instead of that, I just thought to myself, "How can I live with intention and be a very intentional being? And what is my nature? How do I naturally feel without all the noise?" And because it's very peaceful in there. It's very quiet. It's a nice fireplace and everything. And welcome in. And so that you're exactly right. That was something for me. I'm like, well, identity can help me understand filters and a sense of groundingness in my interaction with people. But after a while, I just realized, I want to be present. I want to lead with my heart, and I want to care about people, and so I will. And I think everything else will follow suit. I've never been too worried about methodology or process until the last couple of years, as I wanted to maximize it. But the first beginning was always intent, and then now it's just been a matter of developing the systems and frameworks to really actually help and scale that skill.
Yeah, definitely maximization requires system, but also peace and everything you describe in and of itself is an identity, right? So even if you if you choose to describe yourself as someone that is present, that is thoughtful, that moves with just composure, that in of itself is an identity that you can consciously choose to build for yourself. And I hear myself talk and I want to be like all hippy dippy and spiritual, but there is a truth to but I know it's true because that's how I built myself, and that's not how you built that's how you built yourself as well. I was like,
Right.
I was at a certain place. I didn't want to be at a certain place. I wanted to be in a different place. I was like, what actions and thoughts and how do I need to act to be able to be in that position? And you do that over and over and over again for years. And eventually you wake up and you are in that position. You want to be fit, you have to do the actions and the thoughts of a fit person. If you want to be healthy, you need to do the actions and the thought of a healthy person, right? If you want to be overweight and out of shape, you have to do the actions of an overweight and out of shape person and have those thoughts as well. So, and I think that's the cool part that some people forget. They think that it's just about the plan, but the plan is only a small portion of it. And for everyone we've ever worked with, they understand that it's a self-development process to work with us. You feel like, why do you have a hard time doing your workouts?
Yes.
Why do you have a hard time respecting your nutrition? Why do you make those decisions when you're stressed? It requires some thinking. It requires some digging to figure out, why does this keep happening? If not, you're just going to do the same thing over and over again and nothing's actually going to change. So I'm happy you shared that because it just opened a door for people to understand that there is an ability to consciously choose if you wish to, but you do have to be willing to do the work. And I love what you shared about looking at it from a perspective of just kindness and compassion for yourself. I was writing my newsletter this morning and I wrote in it, you don't want a coach that's going to yell at you and be mean to you, because you're probably already doing that to yourself in your own head. So I don't really need to do that. I just need to have some kindness and compassion. Be like, hey, why is this happening? It's fine. You messed up, whatever. Just get back on track. Versus a coach that's going to yell at you, because most people are probably being really mean to themselves inside their own head when they make a mistake. They don't need someone else coming in and beating them down even more. Right? It's like, just remove the 2x4. You can stop hitting yourself now. We can just improve from here.
It's a Walking Tall film with the big bat. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and on that specific note too, that I would love to share a story of an original story that I haven't shared publicly, or even with many people at all. It was one that's pretty dear to me. It was
well, you're about to share it with thousands of people listening. So
no, it's an exciting thing. Which, thanks for tuning in and watching. I appreciate you. I'm a big fan of the show myself. So, it was back when I was going through that process of developing and what have you. When I would meet with people, and I had a little bit of reservation in developing identity, what have you. There's a gentleman, and there was a kid. He was just a year younger than me, and his name was Caleb. And he was similar height as to me, maybe a little taller, but he was probably about another 200 pounds heavier. And I saw how, environmentally speaking, like, groups would also bully him and make fun of him. And I want to raise awareness toward this as a thought. I saw how people treated him, and I saw how that affected him, especially at a young age. It was very sad to me. And one day, this nickname, how kids do this stuff. They his nickname was Big Mac, of all things. And they were calling him these names and these things. And I just remember how like even thinking on it, I can still feel it like to my gut and core. I'm like, oh man, Caleb is awesome. Like he's such a great kid. You know, he's funny, he's happy, he lights up the room. And so I knocked on his after he left. He basically was really sad, so he left, and I was like, I don't know what to say to him. I don't know what to do, but I feel compelled. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and let all that stuff go. I got to be there for him right now. So whatever hesitancies or pause that I had for my own whichever reasons at the time, I bypassed it. I went overdrive. so then I knocked on his door, and I saw him and I said, Caleb. He's like, yeah. I was like, hey man, don't listen to what those guys say. You're really cool, and I really appreciate you, and I just wanted to say that. And sounds almost cliche at the time, looking back when you're kids, we were super young, and he stopped and he had this biggest smile to him, as I remember it. And he was like, oh, I'm like, hey, do you want to, I was also over at the time. So I said, you want to grab a Mountain Dew? So we've made different choices these days, but, and so we went to go have a Mountain Dew and we became pals. And, and it was it was a moment that I saw a human being have an uncomfortable experience, almost a social, uncomfortable situation, and being able to see the effect that could have on him without thinking about it was when I realized, and it clicked with me. Oh, I can have an effect on people, and I do have effect on people. And then he told me, hey, by the way, I see what you're doing. Always, you're reading, or you're going, with walks, and what are you doing when you do these hand motions? And I'm like, oh, these are incantations. These are things. I look like a wild person out there doing these different movements and incantations and sayings, listening to the audiobooks. But then from that point, I realized like how much that you can affect people directly and then also indirectly, because I didn't know all the things that I did and said that would affect them otherwise, including not just being mean. Because I asked him, I was like, I don't really do a whole lot. He goes, no, you're just not mean to me, man. And I was like, oh. And so in a world today where there can be a lot of mean behaviors and unfortunate unhealthy behaviors that's made manifest amongst each other, sometimes just not even being rude and taking care of yourself to be able to be a better caretaker for others is so powerful, and it's so key. And I think that and Caleb is a great lesson for me. I took with me forever. Is that you can really affect people deeply, and that's where it clicked with me. I said, I don't care what hesitancies that I have or resistance that I have or thoughts or beliefs; those are shattered. I want to do this. That's more important to me than anything else. So being able to prioritize and know what's important to you and why, and having things like that, like that are deeper, those are when the shifts take place. But first you got to be open.
Yeah. And honestly, I appreciate you sharing the story. And that's why I'm excited for you to step into this role. Like,
thank you.
Wholeheartedly. That's why, we've had a lot of private conversations on this. I was like, we found the right position for you to serve people with your strength. And when we, kind of change things up, I was like, Alex is the perfect man for this position. We need to get Alex into this role. And so, again, that's what I wanted to have you on the podcast and introduce you to the world, because you've been, you've been in the public with Vegan Strong and all that, but I think you've been more of like a hidden gem in our community. Yes. on the podcast and on YouTube. You've been watching a lot of the content, but now you get to be on one of them. So I'm happy I was able to, bring you on, introduce you to our community, because I know people love when every time they have a conversation with you at the beginning of the program as a concierge call. And I'm excited for you to be able to, have that deeper or longer relationship with the members to serve them towards their goal, because I think you have the heart in the right place and you're going to do incredible, and people are going to be lucky to be working with you.
I'm lucky for the opportunity. And every person I can meet and have an interaction with is one that I hold dear to me. And I'm really ultimately just, the word's used quite a bit, but I use it in the most sincere sense, grateful to be there for other people and to, be a resource. And I've been in places myself where I didn't have the best relationship with food. I wasn't in the best of health, I had those same sort of behavioral tendencies, but that's all that they were. They were just behaviors, and they were things that I could change, things that I did change and do change. And there's a lot of freedom that comes from, we see this big shadow. It's like you see in the cartoons when you see this big, big shadow, but then it's like a little mouse. It just is from the from the wrong angle, it can look like this big mountain, but then when you get to it, it's just this little cute, adorable mouse. It's like, that's not a big deal. That's not why am I being scared of that. But we don't know that until we can see around the corner. And so having some perspective and undergoing some of the challenges that I've gone through and seeing people that I love dear go through and overcome, I feel like gives a certain level of responsibility and merit that I can extend that toward other people. And that's exactly why I'm excited for the role. Because I'm like, yeah, as you have goals, as you have a direction that you want to go and you want a roadmap and a way to do it sustainably and stay there, join. That's the message. We got you covered.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to ask you, we'll have you back on the podcast. Obviously, I think there's a lot more to talk about, but you touched briefly on martial arts a few times. So I'd be curious for you to share, let's go for 2 lessons that have been the most valuable for you in, doing martial arts for so long. Because I know you went really in depth with your dad. We could probably do a whole podcast on martial arts with you. But let's just grab like the top 2 lessons that have been the most helpful for you in your life from all those teachings.
First thing that comes to my mind is through so many wonderful lessons that I could share. With me, I got it. Okay, I'm super excited about it. I got it. I trained since birth. As soon as I could walk, from stories, the lore I've heard, I was doing some movements as a baby. Yeah. But nonetheless, when I was a kid, I just train. And there's various ranks within the style that I was doing at the time. There's various styles I've done, but at that time I was within Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. And the goal was to accomplish a black belt. That's kind of the goal most people are aware of, where it's more of an advanced rank. But for me, it was more of a rank that showed me that I mastered the basics, that I've done the basics over and over and over again throughout years, and then I was able to do it. And there was a test, and I was 18. I had to be 18 in order to test for it with my dad. And we underwent it, and it was like 3 hours long, and it was kata, it was movement, it was test on values and honor, respect, and treating others fairly. And there were a lot of these wonderful things that martial arts can teach us about how I was never in the competitive sense, in a competitive sport martial art that has its place. But for me, it was always about building the character. And so I'm going to be humbling myself way more than just about anybody else. Same goes with fitness. But it was the test. And I asked my dad at the time, because I'm waiting at the very final evaluation. And I was like, so I'm waiting to pass. And he said, you're not going to pass. And I was like, And I have a great, extraordinarily amazing relationship with my dad. I have full trust. And so his word carries quite a bit of weight, to say the least. And so as I was not approved to pass, he goes, you didn't pass, and you're not close. So there we are. And so he's like, and I thought about it, and I go, okay. And he goes, so now what? I was like, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to practice. He goes, how many times have you done this kata? I was like, countless. I can't count. I probably did 300 reps a day for years. And he's like, how many will you do? I was like, double that. I'll keep going. And he's like, are you upset? I was like, I am, but I'm also excited. I want to keep going. So thank you for the opportunity. And then from that point, he presented it, and then I passed. And I was able to pass. And that was kind of my introduction to getting the basics down to be ready to learn as an adult officially. And when I was so shocked, and it was an emotional moment, and I said, well, why? And I'm not complaining. I was like, but why did I pass? And he goes, how you handle failure and what you perceive as failure is what determined your victory or your loss at the point. And so you kept pursuing. And as soon as you realized you didn't get the rank, you got back to work. He goes, so no matter what rank you're at, you get back to work. You still do your reps. He goes, I've been doing this for 50 years. I'm still doing reps. And so when I come back, so the lesson that taught me was like, regardless of what the outcomes are, just do the work to be able to keep going anyway. And that even though challenges come up and you may not pass, you may not overcome things that you're ready for at this current moment, that's okay. Keep doing the work. And at some point, when the time is right, it'll happen. But we have to keep putting in the work in order for that to occur.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And regardless of how boring it is, to do the same thing over and over again. I think that's one thing I had a point, because I'm doing the same thing with basketball. Regardless of how boring it is to do the same thing over and over again, you do become better regardless of how boring it is.
You really do. And when you get bored of it and you start to, like there's a saying, it was, discipline. I'm trying to paraphrase it because I remember it well. Discipline is doing something that you don't like, but doing it like you love it. Somewhere along those lines. That's Mike Tyson, and I was talking to my another coach of mine and mentor throughout my life is C.T. Fletcher, and he referenced that saying too. CT.
Wow, I was gonna say C.T. Fletcher's famous line, but I won't because there's some swearing in it. I command you to grow.
I command you to grow. That's right.
Yeah.
CT, good man. Him and his son both, Samson.
Yeah. So that was lesson number 1. What is the second lesson you've gotten? Second and last lesson from martial arts.
Yeah, second and last lesson. Last lesson was that when it came to competition, and when it came to we live in this sort of world these days where there's a heaviness, emphasis on competition, and I like some aspects of competition. They can allow us to really grow and have a standard that we set. I'm imagining like with you, like when you went to do the tryouts for basketball and you're experiencing it, you were out there, you were showcasing your skills. You did phenomenal, by the way, as you know. But, you're showing the skills and the reps that you put in behind the scenes in order to show out there on the court. And, when you have that sort of experience going into that, who else is there? Who's trying out? We're in a sense of competition when we're playing a game. We're going against the other team. It's competition. There's good sportsmanship, of course, but there's still competition. And through that comes an evaluation and comparison between ourselves and somebody else. And so often we do this as people in general, where we're comparing our self-value with somebody else's value. And their skill sets and the things that they have, their requirements, the status, that can be a factor in that, of course, as that's pretty common and normal. But within martial arts, what it had taught me was I would go out there and I would spar people and I would grapple and I would do various things. And anytime that I would, quote, win, or I would score a point, or I would, submit, tap out, what have you, there's something in me that just, I'm like, okay, hey, I want to show you how I did that. And so if people would be, they're like, wait, why? I'm like, well, because it'll up your game. It'll allow you to grow. And then I would show them. And they're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because don't you want to keep these things so that you could be the one that has the edge? And I said, I have more than enough work to do with my own craft. I said, I got my own mountain to climb. And I was like, I know you have yours too. The biggest mountain that I'm ever going to have, the biggest competitor I'm ever going to have, is my own self. And that's the person that I'm going to constantly always be trying to take to the next level and move forward. And it does help, whenever there is sort of a competition of sorts and you go out there and you just do your best, you're in the moment. It's almost like a Dan Millman Peaceful Warrior experience. When you're in that moment in space, you're just you with you and all the reps you've done and all the work you've put in. And there's something that's so profound and honorable about that. And even when you do win and you succeed, you have a sense of calmness and respect, to the other person that entered the arena with you, and whatever case that is, if it's a sport, if it's a business, if it's a job opportunity, whatever it may be. I've always given honor to people who have had opportunities, who perhaps maybe we both were trying to acquire, and they would get it. I'm like, oh, hey, congratulations. I'd be happy for them, because I'm like, you must have done great work. I know how much work that I've put into this. So that if you got this, then that's awesome. Bravo to you. You know, I'm on that next one. So the second lesson, in short, is competition can be helpful. And when we're competing with other people, it can be fun and good sportsmanship, as long as good sportsmanship is there. But ultimately, it's always me. And I always have to remember that, and that we all have our own mountains to climb. So it makes it that much easier to help each other.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful philosophy to live by. And, you know, when you shared that you would give the other person, like, here's how I did it, it just made me think right away about how many people you can tell that to, but how very little of them will actually do something with it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you can give someone a hack or a piece of feedback, unless they have that desire to, like, you know, there's like desire to get better, and there's a deep rooted desire to get better, which will make you do repetitions thousands of times. When you're in the gym shooting or training, someone will step in, do 30 minutes and leave, and you're still in there practicing your craft. You're still in there doing your thing. Yeah.
And you're exactly, and so that factor, I realized, when it comes to when I've always been appreciating the people that can, at any level of effort, I can appreciate. But then there's something to be said too about the person that is just relentless, and whatever it is that they're looking to do, whatever that may be, is just doing your best and giving it your real all. And I mean, like, real all. And I think when we're in a position to really give it our real all, and you think, you're trying to get to this point where you're breaking, or like you get like to that pushing point where, like, I don't know if I can do this. When you get to that point, and then like you push past it and you break those barriers, I mean, that's an experience in and of itself, but it can only really come from just perseverance and really pushing through to the other side, despite how you think or feel about the situation. Like what you're doing with basketball.
Yeah. And I think, you know, people can do that. I think it's a beautiful thing to experience, regardless of the area where you're doing it, right? Whether it's because you're being a caregiver to someone, whether it's in fitness and sports and competition, whether it's in business, whether it's in whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of unlocks something in your brain that you can't go back from. Like it's expanded and it can't contract afterwards. Like it's done. You now know that if you are willing to push, you will be able to accomplish incredible things. And then there's like this, just this knowing that, like, oh, I want this goal. I can make this goal happen if I want to. Then it's about, do I really want to make this goal happen? Because I think every goal has a cost.
Yes.
Right? Becoming fit and healthy has a cost, because the cost is you won't be eating food. You're probably going to exercise when you're tired. You're probably going to have to make different hotel reservations to make sure you have a gym, right? Or you're probably going to have to eat certain food, like meal prep, take some time from not watching TV to prep your food. Like there's a cost to whatever it is that you want to improve, and it's being willing to pay it. And I think there's a great sense of respect for people that put in the effort for whatever area it is that you're trying to improve. If you look at someone that's fit and healthy, you will have respect for them if you are fit and healthy, because you understand what it takes to be at that level. If you're talking to someone that's in a certain level in business, you will have respect for them if you're at a similar level, because you understand what it takes to be in that position. Right? So
completely,
it's, you choose how hard you want things to be for each area, but some of the costs that you pay are worth the return that you get once you pay it.
I had a moment where I was speaking of, to give it just one last shout out too. Speaking of CT, there was a moment where he said, you're not willing to pay this price, right? You're not willing to do what I'm willing to do. And so he was giving a motivational lecture. Yeah. And I love what he said. And I was like, you're not willing, exactly in regards of what you're referring to. And yeah, there is a cost. And what really helped me the most of all things was realizing the real cost of not doing and of not changing my behaviors and of not accomplishing my goals. Regret is something that's a very powerful thing to experience. And, I see it all the time when I've spoken with people. I've had a great joy of having friends of mine that have lived more chapters than me. And I've got a chance to read through some of them with them as they shared it with me. And regret's one that no one likes to have. And most of people who I've spoken with at any stage of their life, they always want to talk about how they want to live, they really live life and stay after it. And so paying the price ultimately is actually there's a reward. The higher cost, the higher reward. So that's it's a pretty profound statement. I like what you said. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, you just said you're not willing to pay a price. I think people are not willing to pay a price, but they will pay a price.
Yeah.
So like, obviously I'm from Canada, free healthcare, phenomenal. And, some Canadians will be listening, it's terrible healthcare. It's still free. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been concussion, busted ankle, whatever. All of that was like $4 or $5 grand of hospital bills for all that stuff, which thankfully you can negotiate in the US. You can't really negotiate. Well, you don't have to negotiate in Canada because it's free, but you can negotiate that in the US. Yeah. And those are just like silly injuries. Like concussion's pretty serious, but it was from playing basketball. I didn't get into a car accident, which would cause, other issues. Like if you're not willing to pay a price of, meal prepping, taking the time to exercise, trying to make different decisions when it comes to your food, managing your stress, going to bed a little bit earlier so you can get some good sleep, you will end up paying a price of a hospital bill, especially if you're in the US, that is significantly more expensive than the cost of eating healthy food and exercising. If it was like $5 grand for a busted ankle and a concussion, I can't even imagine what a heart attack is or cancer is in the US. Like it has to be multi six figures, a bill for those treatments and to kind of handle you. To me, that's, how long of healthy groceries that is?
Yeah.
You can have half of that in healthy groceries. You can save the other half. And yeah, living here, you have to be healthy. It is wild. The cost of hospital. They wanted to do a CT scan for my head. And I was like, I told Ivy, I was like, we'll try to pay cash for $3,000. They said between 17 and 20 some $1,000s. I was like, I'm good. I know my brain's fine. For $20,000, my brain's fine. I don't need to scan this. I'm obviously okay, but it's a joke. But yeah. It's you have to be healthy. You're gonna pay a cost regardless. It's just which one do you want to pay? Is it effort or money?
You said something to me it rings frequently. It was, it was along the lines of, it was in regards to caretaking and like how important it is for us to take care of ourselves so that the people that we love don't have the burden of having to do that to the best that we can.
Yeah.
For me, right? To the best that we can, of course. Some things happen. There's nothing we can do, but the controllables and that hit because I had, I'm like, and same goes for like the people that I know, that know me, like in my close friend group and social group. It's always nice. I've always been considered, and it's interesting speaking of oneself, but it's always been considered kind of a go-to person of being grounded. Like, oh, I know I can go to this person because, I'm not just going to offload all my stuff and then, then leave and then I'm fine. But it was more like, I want to go to this person to really understand and navigate through challenge because I feel like they're doing it well. And that was my main process throughout life is like, I've wanted to develop skills of handling stress, management, how my body works and undergoing these big challenges. And as I do them and I do them healthy, I feel and experience I felt what it was like to not do it healthy, but now I feel like what it is to do it healthy. And so that is a gift that I'm thankful for as each day passes. And I want more people to have. It feels so great, or it feels so enriching that I want others to have the same thing, and they can with the frameworks, the effort, and they have a true desire to really want it. It's possible. And I've seen it time and time again, even for people who've had much greater challenge than I, overcome and persevere. So taking care of yourself. And lastly, there's a little tidbit too, Maxim, about hospitals. I like to share a quick story, not to be too long-winded, but I like to share a little story.
Go for it. So we have a
Great.
podcast. We get to talk for however long we want.
We'll dive right in. So I was training with a gentleman here locally. I still know him to this day. Incredible athlete, really, I must say, and a relatively good martial artist. We were training together, and the goal was no contact. And it's not too graphic. I guess it'd be fine. So it was no contact was the requirements, because he was 25 and I was 16. So he was about 11 years older than me. And he goes over to me and he's like, "Hey, so I learned this, and it's called the 1-inch punch. You ever heard of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. Like JKD, yeah, I got it." And he's like, "You ever done it?" I'm like, "It was like boards and stuff. Yeah, I broke boards. Yeah." And he's like, "Do you know it well?" I'm like, I don't know. I haven't specialized in that, so I don't know it well. I wouldn't say, but I know of it." And so he's like, "Okay, so I won't do anything. I won't put any contact, but this is really powerful." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So he puts his hand right here on the chest, and it occurred. He goes on and he full on, and I was experiencing that, and it works pretty well whenever you stand there.
Yeah.
And so I experienced an injury, and I was awake at the time. Woke me up, and to say the least, what it eventually did over time, to put it in short, it was an injury suffered in my esophagus. It kind of crushed my upper chest region and the cartilage that I was developing at the time, and my esophagus was having some inflammation, and the esophageal lining. And so for 6 months, the hospital couldn't figure out what was going on, because as soon as I would eat food, it would get stuck right here. The esophagus would constrict, and it would no longer allow food to pass. So, and so this was 2000. Yeah, I was 16 years old. So when that happened, 6 months time it took. I went up to Dornbecker Hospital. A gentleman named Matt DeJong, wonderful human still to this day. He helped me at the time. He had a truck, and he took me up there, and it's worth sharing a story about him in general. He's a great guy. But I went up to Dornbecker. They did some tests. They figured out stricture, and then they went in and they did an operation, and they expanded my chest from my esophagus like a balloon. And so going into that experience, I'm like, because I couldn't eat for 6 months. So I ended up looking like my biceps were like my wrist bone. I mean, I was very frail. I would drink Ensures and eat gravy and muscle milk and emergent C vitamins. That was my diet for about 6 months. And sometimes cream of wheat. I still don't have cream of wheat to this day, but
PTSD from it.
Yeah, man, it's not the best. So when for not eating for 6 months, solid food, and going on Ensures. When the operation happened and it was resolved, I could eat food again. And so when you go 6 months with no food, it sounds relatively not too long, but it felt like years, and it was a long time to fast. And so I ended up just enjoying food too much. I ate everything under the sun, and I went from being that frail to about 220 pounds total. I was a big boy, and from that experience, and that wasn't muscle, I gained that pretty quickly, as the body was in a pretty stressful state, as you can imagine, metabolically speaking, just tanked. And so then once I got to that point, that was the kind of the origin of my original weight loss journey, was to go from there. And I'm like, I can eat now, but now what? And I'm still kind of exercising throughout this journey between 12 and 16, but I really started taking it seriously at 16, going on 17, as that operation had been resolved. And so through injury, through those experiences, it was mainly the relationship, or at least my association to food and undergoing those things. And now these days, food's a wonderful thing, and I appreciate being able to eat solid food. But the hospital bills, I can tell, there was a lot of wonderful organizations. It was a pretty expensive operation, and When you mentioned hospital bills, it reminded me of it. But yeah, it was quite expensive, and so it kind of reminded me too, even at a relatively super young age, that we got to take this seriously because eventually I pay now or pay later. So
Yeah, or move to Canada.
or move to Canada, start definitely like processing.
Or Mexico. It might be cheaper. No, that's crazy. Yeah, so definitely no 1-inch punch
No one is
anymore.
punched. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no one is punched. No, that's I've learned it since. I've learned this movement, but I've
That's crazy. Yeah, you're really young. You definitely shouldn't have done that.
yeah, and there was not. It was against the total parameters of the time too. Just to give the disclaimer on that, like if you're in a training situation or if you're in a movement or you're exercising, that's why I'm just so big on. I'm so big on safety and I'm so big on proper form and movement. Get the motion down first. Get comfortable. Get confident. Then start getting the central
Yeah.
nervous system activated.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah,
Nah.
just
Well, man.
yeah.
I'll say go for it.
Oh yeah, just wanted to share that story as far as the kind of the hospital experience, and then how I have a lot of empathy for people who still are undergoing setbacks, being in whichever experience that they're doing. That I can know what it's like to, you know, basically whenever you're just trying to walk and have the energy to go from one room to the other, one side of the room to the other, and it gives you perspective. It really does. It gives you a lot of perspective and a lot of empathy. It just taught me more empathy from that point.
Yeah, that's usually what we find for myself and for a lot of I think everyone on the team. Everyone on the team has gone through some health challenges or something in the past, and that's what made them want to help other people, which I
Yeah,
think is what makes great coaches, because you understand like a certain level of pain that is everyone's a little bit unique of an experience, but there's always the desire usually stems from that. um no, awesome. Alex, man, I appreciate you taking the time to record with me. I'm happy we're able to get you on the podcast after a few years of working together.
hmm.
Um, I'm excited for you to step into the light and get to work with members directly. And, for the people listening, if you're interested in working with Coach Alex as an accountability coach and in the program, there's a link down below where you can book your private consultation call. But yeah, be excited to serve you. Alex, any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, and a great sense of gratitude and thank you for allowing me to have the platform and be on the show. And it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, my last few thoughts come to mind is that whatever point of the journey that you're on, it's this moment that really is the moment to make a change in decision. And far often, I've seen a lot of people and met a lot of people who kind of put things off in the future, and it's a decision that's pending. When it comes to anything in general, maybe it could be within a relationship, a friendship, forgiving somebody. It could be taking your health to the next point. That's the goal. Whatever that is, to be able to make decision and really commit to it there's a great level of freedom and power that comes in that for your own personal power. And so it's my hope that whichever decision that you do make, that it is with health, with care, and ultimately at the end of the day with love.
Beautiful. Well, Alex, again, big thank you for taking the time to jump on the show. Everyone, thank you very much for listening to the episode. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 25,000 subscribers before the end of the year. If you're listening on audio, be sure to follow so you get notified when the new videos come out or the new podcast episodes. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.